A nonprofit serving the needy will mark its 50th anniversary with a series of events in early December. To talk about what's planned and some of the history are the executive director of Haley House, Broderick, and a performer in one of the events, also a chef at Haley House, Fulani Haynes. Thank you very much for being with us.
Nice to see you. Thank you.
I want to talk with Bing about the history, because this goes back 50 years in Boston, and I guess there's even a backstory in the Catholic workers movement. So explain how that led to Haley House.
So Kathy and John McKenna and some friends of theirs were living in Kathy is from New York. John had spent some time at the Catholic Worker in New York, and together they were living in an apartment on Upton Street in the South End, and they were really inspired by Dorothy Day and the Catholic Worker and the ethos of personalism, and invited some of the guys who were out freezing in the street in the South End into their apartment, gave them shelter, gave them a meal, and neighbors were inspired by this movement and joined in, and within about 6 months they were able to buy a building at the corner of Dartmouth Street in Montgomery. And it was a building that was slated for demolition, and they were able to establish a soup kitchen there. At the time, there was no Pine Street Inn, there's no Rosie's Place. There was no soup kitchen in Boston at that time. There had been during the Depression. But there were, a lot of people who were on the streets of the South End, often alcoholics who needed food, and so that was really how the soup kitchen started.
Fulani, talk about your connection, because you go back at least to when the cafe opened in Dudley Square. So, and you're plugged into that in many different levels. So talk about that.
Well, to speak a little bit about what Bing was speaking about, we have something called community tables at the Haley House every Saturday night, where we feed people a 3-course meal. And the idea is that you have your appetizer, your entree, your dessert. We cater to you. We have wonderful student volunteers and community volunteers. And then at the end of your 3-course meal, there's an envelope that's placed in front of you, and you pay what you can, pay what you will. Continuously on that theme of food with a purpose.
What is the purpose, you think?
The purpose is to allow people to come in together. We have to put your cell phones and pagers away to eat and have a wonderful dinner together, old-fashioned way. Tables are set, people come in, and some people have never experienced the restaurant area, and they come in and get a chance to see what it's like to sit down and have a clean or organic meal just cooked within the hour, socializing with other people from other communities. It's a beautiful time.
Of course, your other kind of connection is as a performer, and this took a little willpower and vision on your part. Tell us how that evolved.
I love to walk through the Dudley area, because that's where I was raised, right on the corner there of Williams and Washington Street. So I used to play in the little alley courtyard behind the Haley House, so I often walked there. I was walking past one day, and I saw this bakery, and I walked up to the bakery. This was like in 2006. Went inside. There was one person at the bakery. I asked him, I said, "Are you planning to have any musical entertainment in your establishment?" She said, "Yeah, we're thinking about it. We're just opening up. We're just starting to get, start making our plans. So could you come back another time?" So 6 months later, I went back and asked them again, "Would you like to have music?" She said, the chef that was there said, "Well, we're going to have a meeting in about 3 or 4 weeks. Give me your information and we'll call you back, and I'll bring this to our committee members." And so they called me and said, "Well, we're thinking about having a jazz brunch every Sunday. Would you like to be involved with that?" And I said yes.
Bing, this has helped make the Haley House Bakery Cafe a real social hub, cultural hub too, in Roxbury. But talk about behind the scenes, because the people who work there and what that work is doing for some of them, putting their lives back together.
Sure. When we were in the South End, the bakery started in the South End. It started out of the soup kitchen, and some of the guests at the soup kitchen knew how to bake. They showed others how to bake, and we started a bakery, a training program, and a little retail operation at the same time. And neighbors smelled the bread. They wanted to buy the bread. It gave them a reason to come in our doors, and it all was a community building process at the time. what happened was at that time we were working, the trainees were largely guests from the soup kitchen. Over time, we worked with folks who are in any different kind of transition. But in about 2010, our catering manager, who had spent 15 years in federal prison, said, let's just focus on men and women coming out of prison because it's really an epidemic right now. There's no opportunity and there's a lot of people looking for work. So we worked on a training program at that time that was really life skills based, although food was the vehicle for it. It wasn't really a culinary program as such. And that has grown and grown. And so a lot of the folks who work at the Bakery Cafe have been through our program, but not everybody, but it's all mixed up because, you know, there are people who have spent time in prison who didn't do the training program but know that we're a quarry-friendly business and came to us for that reason. So it's a nice, we like to mix things up at Haley House. The whole community tables came about because we realized we had people who had lived 2 blocks away from us who had never been through our doors. And you know, our mission, one of our sort of missions is breaking down barriers, but if our front door is a barrier to people, how do you open that door? So community tables was the idea.
Well, Fulani, part of this is the reason for the celebration because you've got 3 different kinds of events here. There's a forum, there's a musical performance, and a benefit coming up as well.
Yes.
So please, anything we should know about?
The Fulani Haynes Jazz Collaborative has been asked because of our participation with Haley House for 10 years to be the band featured, one of the bands featured for the event. So we're going to provide a meet and greet celebration time on December 3rd. During that evening, they'll have meet and greet, they'll have dinner, and we'll have a dance party when everyone finishes eating. So we're providing the music, an 8-piece band, vocalist included, and we will be providing dance music for the celebration of the 50th anniversary.
And Bing, there's going to be a forum on a couple of topics here, right?
So Saturday during the day at 10:30 and at 1 o'clock, we're going to have panels in the bowling building on food justice, social activism, mass incarceration, and housing and homelessness. Each panel will have about 4 or 5 panelists and a moderator talking about it, and all of whom are people that we work with in one way or another.
Plus you have the benefit on the 5th too, right?
Exactly.
Right. So for details, you've got a website. Look up Haley House, I guess.
HaleyHouse.org/50 years.
All right. Thank you very, very much for being with us. Bing Broderick and Fulani Haynes for Haley House.